The door creaked open like a gunshot in the dead of night, shattering the fragile peace I'd built around my solitude. I bolted upright in bed, sheets tangling around my waist, heart slamming against my ribs as the silhouette of my nephew Jordan filled the doorway, his phone's flashlight cutting through the darkness like an accusation. "Uncle Adam," he whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. "I saw everything, and it's not what you think. Or maybe it is." I'd always prided myself on being the steady one in the family, the uncle who showed up with quiet strength after my sister Sarah's divorce left her and her kids adrift in the choppy waters of suburban Chicago. That was 8 years ago, back when Jordan was just a gangly 14-year-old with braces and a backpack full of comic books, crashing on my couch during those endless summers. Now, at 22, he was a man, tall, lean, with those piercing green eyes that mirrored his mother's but carried a fire she never had. He'd come back to Illinois after dropping out of art school in New York, tail between his legs, mumbling something about needing a fresh start. I didn't ask too many questions. Family doesn't pry when the wounds are still raw. My apartment in Wrigleyville was a far cry from the sprawling family home in Oak Park where we'd all grown up. It was a third-floor walk-up in a brick building that smelled faintly of garlic from the Italian deli below, with creaky hardwood floors and windows that overlooked the L tracks rumbling toward Wrigley Field. I'd bought it 15 years ago with the proceeds from selling my graphic design firm, back when I thought love might stick around longer than a freelance gig. But love had other plans. My ex, Mark, had packed his bags one rainy Tuesday, leaving behind a note that read, "I can't keep pretending this is enough. Enough." The word still burned like cheap whiskey. That night, the one that changed everything, I'd fallen asleep with the TV murmuring in the background, a late-night rerun of The Golden Girls, because why not lean into the irony? I'd been scrolling through Grindr earlier, thumb hovering over profiles that promised escape but delivered ghosts. Nothing came of it. I deleted the app for the third time that month, swearing off the hollow thrill. Sleep came heavy, dreamless, until Jordan's intrusion yanked me into the harsh light of reality. He stood there in his faded Cubs hoodie and jeans, the kind that hugged his hips just right, his face pale under the harsh glow of his phone. The air between us thickened, charged with the kind of electricity that precedes a storm. "Jordan," I managed, voice rough from sleep. "What the hell? It's 2 a.m. He didn't move, just lowered the light slowly, revealing the duffel bag slung over his shoulder like an afterthought. "I couldn't sleep. Heard noises from your room. Thought maybe you were hurt or something." His eyes flicked to the nightstand, to the half-empty bottle of bourbon and the crumpled photo of us from last summer. Me grilling burgers in the backyard, him laughing with a beer in hand, the Chicago skyline hazy in the distance. Then his gaze settled on me, really settled, and I felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the thin t-shirt clinging to my sweat-damp skin. I pulled the sheet higher, suddenly aware of the vulnerability of half-dressed men in a shared space. "I'm fine. Just bad dream. Go back to the couch, kid. We'll talk in the morning." But he didn't budge. Instead, he stepped inside, closing the door with a soft click that echoed like a lock turning. The room shrank around us, the walls pressing in with their faded posters of old baseball legends and a single rainbow flag I'd hung years ago, half hidden behind the closet door. "Uncle Adam," he said again, softer this time, like he was testing the words on his tongue. "I know about you. About everything. Mom told me some, but I saw the rest tonight. On your phone, before you locked it." My stomach dropped, a cold plummet into the abyss. The phone, God. I'd left it unlocked on the charger. Screen still lit with that last Grinder notification. A shirtless torso, anonymous and inviting. Secrets I'd buried deep, the ones I'd shielded him from all those summers, came spilling out like blood from a fresh cut. I was 47, gay as the day is long, and utterly alone in a world that still whispered judgments behind closed doors. Sarah knew, of course, my big sister, my confidant, but she'd sworn Jordan to silence, framing it as Uncle Adam's private life, when he was old enough to ask why I never brought anyone home. Now, here he was, unraveling it all with a single glance. It's not. Don't. He cut me off, voice trembling but firm. He dropped the bag and sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that I could smell the rain on his clothes, mixed with that faint cologne he'd worn since high school. Something woodsy, like pine and regret. Don't lie to me. Not you. You're the only one who ever told me the truth about Dad leaving. About how love can just evaporate. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat tasting like defeat. Outside, a train rattled by, its horn a mournful wail that mirrored the ache building in my chest. Jordan's hand hovered near mine, hesitant, as if bridging that gap might shatter us both. In that moment, with the city humming beyond the walls, I saw him not as my nephew, the boy I'd bounced on my knee or taught to throw a curveball, but as a man carrying his own shadows, failures in New York. A string of bad relationships he'd hinted at over late-night pizzas. The weight of expectations from a family fractured by loss. What do you want me to say? I finally whispered, meeting his eyes. They were wet, glistening in the low light, and for the first time, I noticed the faint scar above his left eyebrow from that skateboarding wipeout when he was 16. I cleaned it up myself, cursing under my breath while he grinned through the pain. He leaned in, breath warm against my cheek. Tell me you're not alone anymore. Because I'm not either. And what I saw tonight, it made me realize I've been lying to myself too. The kiss came like thunder, sudden, electric. His lips crashing into mine with a desperation that tasted of salt and unspoken longing. I froze, every nerve screaming warning, but my body betrayed me, hands rising to cup his face, pulling him closer as the world narrowed to the heat of him, the soft press of his mouth yielding under mine. It was wrong. A line crossed in the dim confines of my bedroom, but in that stolen breath, felt like salvation. We broke apart gasping, foreheads touching, the silence roaring louder than any storm. Jordan, I murmured, voice wrecked. We can't. But his fingers traced my jaw, gentle as a promise. Why not? Because of blood? Or because you're scared it'll break us? I had no answer, only the pounding of my heart and the dawning horror that the secrets we'd both guarded were unraveling into something far more dangerous. Desire. The next morning dawned gray and unrelenting, the kind of Chicago autumn day where the wind off Lake Michigan bites like betrayal. I woke alone, Jordan's side of the bed cool and empty, the imprint of his body a ghost on the sheets. Panic clawed at me as I stumbled into the kitchen, coffee pot gurgling like an old friend offering false comfort. He was there, hunched over the Formica counter, sketching furiously in his notebook, the one he'd carried since he was a kid, pages filled with angular cityscapes and shadowed figures that hinted at the turmoil inside. Morning, he said without looking up, pencil scratching like an accusation. His hair was tousled, falling over his forehead in that boyish way that made my chest ache. He wore one of my old flannel shirts, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with the lean muscle of someone who'd spent too many nights walking the streets of Brooklyn, chasing inspiration that never quite materialized. I poured coffee, black and scalding, and leaned against the sink, watching him. The events of the night replayed in fragments. His confession, the kiss that lingered like smoke, the way he'd whispered, "I've wanted this for years," before fleeing to the living room couch. Wanted it. The words echoed, stirring a mix of terror and thrill I'd thought long buried. "We need to talk," I said, voice steadier than I felt. He closed the notebook with a snap, green eyes locking onto mine. "About last night? Or about why you think it's a mistake?" "Both." I set the mug down, hands trembling slightly. "Your family, Jordan. My sister's kid. This, whatever this is, it's a minefield." He stood, closing the distance in 2 strides, his presence filling the tiny kitchen like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Family? Is that what you see when you look at me now?" His hand brushed mine, deliberate, sending sparks up my arm. "Because I stopped seeing you as just an uncle a long time ago. Remember that summer after high school, when Mom shipped me here because she couldn't stand my phase? You were the one who listened when I admitted I liked guys. You didn't judge. You just understood." I remembered vividly. The backyard bonfire, bottles of cheap beer sweating in the grass, his voice small as he confessed over the crackle of flames. I'd held him then, a hug that lingered too long, both of us pretending it was nothing. But it had been everything, the spark that smoldered, waiting for oxygen. "That doesn't change the facts," I replied, though my resolve wavered under his gaze. "Sarah would kill us. Hell, the whole town would. Let them." He stepped closer, lips curving in that defiant smile that had always gotten him into trouble. "I'm tired of hiding, Uncle Adam." "Aren't you?" The nickname twisted like a knife, a reminder of the chasm between us. But as his fingers intertwined with mine, warm and sure, I felt the walls I'd built around my heart cracking. We kissed again, slower this time, exploratory, tongues tentative, hands mapping familiar territory made new by forbidden context. The coffee burned cold on the counter as we lost ourselves, bodies pressing against the fridge, the hum of the appliance a distant soundtrack to our unraveling. By noon, we'd migrated to the living room, tangled on the couch under a threadbare Afghan, talking in hushed tones about everything and nothing. He told me about New York, the endless auditions for graphic design gigs that went nowhere, the parade of hookups that left him emptier than before, the night he caught his last boyfriend with someone else in their Bushwick loft. "It was like looking in a mirror," he said, tracing patterns on my chest. "All that pretending, just to feel something real." I shared my own scars. Mark's abandonment, the family dinners where Sarah's ex would crack homophobic jokes and I'd swallow my rage with mashed potatoes, the quiet nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if love was a myth for men like me. "I thought I'd made peace with it," I admitted. "Being the cool uncle, the reliable one. But last night, you walking in, seeing me raw like that, it stripped away the bullshit." Jordan propped himself on an elbow, studying me with an intensity that made me feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. "Then let's not bullshit anymore. Let's try this. Us." It was madness, a leap off the edge of reason. But in the soft light slanting through the blinds, with the city pulsing outside, felt possible. We spent the afternoon like that, lazy kisses interspersed with stories, his head on my lap as I ran fingers through his curls, the world reduced to the space between us. But shadows loomed. As evening fell, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Hey bro, Jordan settled in okay? Coming for dinner Sunday. Bring wine." Innocence in every word, oblivious to the bomb we just detonated. I showed it to him, and his face fell, the weight of reality crashing down. "We have to tell her," he said quietly, but there was fear in his eyes, the same fear I'd carried for decades. "Not yet," I replied, pulling him close. "Let's have this first. Just us." He nodded, but the seed of doubt had been planted. And in the quiet hours that followed, as we made love for the first time, slow, reverent, bodies learning each other in the sacred hush of my bedroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that paradise, once tasted, invites its own destruction. Weeks blurred into a fragile rhythm, our secret blooming like contraband roses in the cracks of everyday life. Mornings started with coffee and stolen kisses in the kitchen, Jordan's laughter echoing off the tiled walls as he teased me about my ancient record collection. Springsteen and Dylan spinning on the turntable while we burned toast. Afternoons were for work, me at my drafting table, sketching logos for local breweries, him sprawled on the floor with his tablet, animating surreal cityscapes that bled with the colors of his unrest. Evenings belonged to us, walks along the lakefront, hands brushing in the anonymity of crowds, or curled up watching indie films on my laptop, his head on my shoulder, whispering critiques that dissolved into sighs. Chicago wrapped around us like a reluctant embrace, its neighborhoods a mosaic of grit and grace. We'd wander Lincoln Park, dodging joggers and dog walkers, pausing at the conservatory where exotic blooms pressed against glass, mirroring the wildness we'd unleashed. "This place," he'd say, fingers laced with mine under the table at a dive bar in Andersonville. "It's like us, beautifully broken. The Flag District there, with its rainbow crosswalks and queer-owned cafes, felt like a sanctuary, but we navigated it cautiously, eyes darting for familiar faces. Paranoia was our constant companion, a low hum beneath the thrill. Yet, in those stolen moments, love unfurled, raw, unfiltered, the kind that poets chase but rarely catch. Jordan's touch was a revelation. Calloused fingertips from years of gripping pencils tracing my spine, lips that knew exactly where to linger, drawing out moans I hadn't heard from my own throat in years. He'd wake me with breakfast in bed, lopsided pancakes dusted with powdered sugar, and we'd make love with the sunlight painting our skin gold, bodies moving in a dance honed by instinct and ache. "I love you," he'd murmur afterward, voice muffled against my neck, and I'd hold him tighter, whispering it back like a prayer, terrified of the gods who might hear. But secrets have a way of fermenting, turning sweet into sour. It started small. A missed call from Sarah, her voicemails laced with that big sister intuition. "You two sound weirdly happy. Everything good?" We'd laugh it off. But the guilt gnawed at me, a persistent itch under my skin. Jordan felt it too, his sketches growing darker, figures entangled in thorns, faces half-shadowed by doubt. Then came the betrayal, sharp as a winter gale off the lake. It was a Friday night in early November, the air crisp with the promise of snow, when we decided to celebrate, 6 weeks since that fateful night, with dinner at the Bristol, a cozy spot in Bucktown known for its farm-to-table comfort food. We dressed up, me in a button-down that hugged my frame just right, him in a slim-fit blazer over a graphic tee, curls tamed but rebellious. Holding hands openly as we walked from the L station felt like defiance, a middle finger to the world's watchful eyes. The restaurant buzzed with young professionals, candlelight flickering over exposed brick walls, the scent of roasted duck mingling with red wine. We ordered oysters and shared a bottle of Pinot Noir, toasting to us against the odds. Jordan's foot nudged mine under the table, playful, his eyes sparkling with that mix of mischief and devotion that undid me. "To more nights like this," he said, clinking glasses, "and fewer like the ones that came before." Halfway through the main course, his duck confit, my seared scallops, a shadow fell across our table. "Adam? Jordan? No way." I looked up, fork frozen mid-air, to see Tyler Reese, Sarah's ex-husband, Jordan's father, the man who'd walked out on them a decade ago with barely a backward glance. He was broader now, paunch straining against a polo shirt, but the smug grin was the same, etched with the arrogance of a used car salesman who'd clawed his way to middle management in Naperville. "Dad," Jordan said, voice flat as Lake Michigan in winter, color draining from his face. Tyler clapped a hand on Jordan's shoulder. "Too hard. Too familiar. Kiddo, been ages." And Adam, still playing the family hero. "Ha!" His eyes flicked between us, lingering on our untouched wine glasses, the intimacy of our shared plate. Suspicion flickered, but he masked it with bluster. "What brings you lovebirds to my neck of the woods? Date night." The word hung like smoke, choking the air. I forced a laugh, brittle as autumn leaves. "Just catching up. Jordan's crashing with me while he figures out next steps." Tyler slid into the empty chair uninvited, signaling the waiter for a scotch. "Figures. Heard you flunked out of that fancy school. Art, right? Always knew it was a pipe dream." He turned to me, eyes narrowing. "And you, Adam, still flying solo? Or you finally snag someone who sticks?" The subtext was a blade, honed by years of his casual barbs at family gatherings, the ones veiled as jokes but laced with venom. Jordan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing hard enough to bruise. A silent plea, "Don't engage." But Tyler was on a roll, oblivious or uncaring. "Sarah's been asking about you too. Says Jordan's been radio silent. Everything kosher." He leaned in, voice dropping to a conspiratorial rumble. "Heard rumors, you know, about you, Adam. Back in the day. That you prefer your own kind." The word kind dripped with disdain, a relic from his Fox News binges. My blood ran cold, the room tilting. Jordan tensed beside me, but before I could deflect, he exploded. "Shut up, Dad. You don't get to waltz in here after ghosting us for years and play the concerned parent." Tyler's face reddened, jowls quivering. "Watch your tone, boy. I'm still your father." "Not by choice," Jordan shot back, voice shaking with fury I'd never heard from him. "You left because Mom wouldn't toe your line, because she wouldn't pretend anymore. And now you're sniffing around like you own us." The restaurant hushed, heads turning our way. Tyler stood, chair scraping like nails on chalkboard. "Ungrateful little fine. Rot in this city with your uncle." His gaze raked over me, disgust curling his lip. "Whatever this is," he stormed out, leaving a wake of awkward stares and the metallic tang of rage. The waiter comped our desserts, murmuring apologies, but the mood was shattered. We paid and fled into the night, the wind whipping our coats as we hurried toward the station. Jordan was silent on the train, staring out at the blurred lights of the city, tears carving silent tracks down his cheeks. I pulled him into my side, arm around his shoulders, murmuring nonsense about how Tyler was poison, always had been. "He's wrong," I said fiercely. "About everything." But as we stumbled into the apartment, shedding clothes like burdens, the sex that followed was frantic, almost punishing, bodies colliding with a desperation born of wounds reopened. Afterward, spent and sticky, he buried his face in my chest, sobs racking him. "He knows," he whispered. "Or he suspects. And he'll tell Mom. He'll ruin us." I held him tighter, stroking his back, but doubt crept in like fog off the lake. Tyler's words echoed, "Whatever this is. Was it love? Or just two broken men grasping at straws?" The high of our secret paradise crashed against the rocks of reality. And in the dark, I wondered if we'd survive the tide. The fallout came swift as a subpoena. 2 days later, Sarah called while I was at the grocery store, Jordan sketching at the kitchen table. "Adam, what the hell is going on?" Her voice was steel wrapped in worry, the kind honed from years of single motherhood. "Tyler showed up at my door last night, drunk and ranting about you too. Said he saw you at dinner, acting weird. Like, together." My grip tightened on the phone, cart forgotten in the cereal aisle. "Sarah, it's not. Don't lie to me. Adam. I'm your sister. I see through bullshit." A pause, heavy as lead. "Is it true? You and Jordan?" The world narrowed to the hum of fluorescent lights, the distant beep of registers. I glanced toward home, imagining his face if he heard this. "Yes," I said finally, the word a stone dropping into still water. "But it's more than that. We love each other." Silence stretched, broken only by her sharp intake of breath. "Jesus Christ. He's my son. Your nephew. This is incest, Adam. Illegal. Wrong on every level." "It's not like that," I protested, though the word incest landed like a slap, ugly and reductive. "We're adults. Consenting. And it's not blood." "Close enough," she snapped. "Family doesn't do this. You're supposed to protect him, not seduce him." Seduce. The accusation twisted the knife, painting me as predator when all I'd ever been was guardian. "He came to me, Sarah. Broken, like I was. We found something real." Another pause, softer this time. "I need time. And you, stay away from him until I figure this out. For his sake." The line went dead, leaving me adrift in the aisle, milk cartons blurring through unshed tears. When I got home, Jordan took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug, but the embrace felt different, tentative, laced with the poison of her words. That night, we didn't make love. We lay side by side, hands linked, staring at the ceiling as the L rumbled past. "She'll come around," he murmured, but his voice lacked conviction. I wanted to believe him, but as sleep evaded me, I traced the lines of his profile in the moonlight, memorizing him against the coming storm. Love, I realized, wasn't just the bloom, it was the thorns that drew first blood. The fracture widened like a fault line under the city, subtle tremors building to an quake that threatened to swallow us whole. Sarah's edict hung over the apartment like a shroud. No contact, no visits. For Jordan's own good. She whisked him away that weekend to her place in Oak Park, the family McMansion with its white picket fence and manicured lawn that screamed normalcy. I paced the empty rooms, the silence deafening without his laughter, his sketches littering the coffee table like fallen leaves. My bed felt vast, cold, the sheets mocking me with the faint scent of his cologne. Texts from him came in fits and starts. Miss you. Mom's in denial mode, cooking up a storm, pretending it's fine. Then, radio silence for days, broken by a single photo, him at the old swing set in the backyard, looking smaller than his years, caption reading wishing for escape. Each ping was a lifeline, but the distance gnawed, turning longing into a beast that paced my nights. Work became my anchor, though even that frayed. A client meeting at a Logan Square co-working space devolved into distraction, my mind wandering to Jordan's hands on my skin, the way he'd gasp my name like a secret incantation. Earth to Adam, my partner quipped, snapping me back. I nodded through revisions, but inside, turmoil churned. Was this what love did? Reduce a man to a ghost haunting his own life? Tyler, that snake, didn't let the drama die. An email arrived midweek, forwarded from an anonymous account but reeking of his pettiness. Grainy photos from the restaurant, our hands too close, expressions too tender. Attached was a note. Keep this in the family, or I go public. For Jordan's sake. Blackmail, crude and effective, leveraging the very taboo Sarah had hurled like a grenade. I deleted it, hands shaking, but the images burned into my retinas, evidence of our joy-turned-weapon. Desperation drove me to drive to Oak Park that Friday, the old family home looming like a sentinel under sodium streetlights. Sarah answered the door in yoga pants and a wine-stained sweatshirt, eyes red-rimmed, the smell of lasagna wafting from the kitchen. You shouldn't be here, she said, but there was no heat in it, only exhaustion. I need to see him. Please, she stepped aside, gesturing me in with a sigh. The house was a time capsule, faded photos on the mantle of Jordan as a toddler, me holding him at his baptism, all of us smiling before the cracks showed. He was in the living room, curled on the couch with a book, Kerouac, fittingly, looking up with a mix of relief and wariness. Adam, one word, and I was across the room, pulling him into my arms, careful of Sarah's watchful gaze from the doorway. He melted into me, solid and warm, his whisper fierce against my ear. I thought she'd locked me in forever. We talked in fragments, her hovering like a chaperone at a high school dance. This can't continue, she interjected when I reached for his hand. It's not healthy. Jordan, you're confused. Post-breakup, dropping out. This is a rebound, twisted by proximity. Mom, he snapped, pulling away but staying close to me. It's not confusion. It's clarity. Adam sees me, the real me, not the son you wish I was or the artist Dad mocks. Her face crumpled, the fight draining out. I just want you safe. From scandal, from pain. She glanced at me, eyes pleading. Remember what happened with Mark? How it broke you? The mention of my ex was a low blow, dredging up memories of shattered trust. Nights spent piecing myself back together. But this was different. Jordan wasn't Mark, fleeting and fickle. He was fire, consuming and renewing. I remember, I said evenly. And I also remember choosing to live anyway. The standoff ended in uneasy truce, supervised visits, therapy referrals for family counseling. Sarah agreed to let him return to my place, but with conditions: no closed doors, no overnights together. It was a cage, gilded but confining, chipping away at the intimacy we'd forged. Back in Wrigleyville, the apartment felt like a stage set for farce. We'd steal moments in the bathroom, quick kisses over the sink while she dropped by with groceries, her presence a chill wind. Jordan's frustration boiled over one night after she'd lingered too long, critiquing his latest animation project. "This is bullshit," he exploded once her car peeled away. "We're not kids. We deserve privacy." I pulled him onto the couch, his head in my lap, fingers combing through his hair. "It's temporary. She's scared. For you. For the family image." "Fuck the image," he muttered. But his body relaxed under my touch, tension uncoiling like a spring. We talked then, deep into the night, about dreams deferred, his vision of an indie studio in Pilsen, my long-buried novel about a gay designer navigating corporate closets. Vulnerability wove us tighter, words a bridge over the growing rift. But the climax brewed in shadows. Tyler escalated, cornering Jordan at a coffee shop near Sarah's, the coffee shop, where we'd first shared a latte after his return, hands brushing over foam. Witnesses later said it was ugly. Tyler grabbing his arm, hissing accusations of perversion, drawing stares from baristas and moms with strollers. Jordan shoved him off, storming out, but not before Tyler landed a glancing slap, red mark blooming on his cheek like a brand. He showed up at my door at midnight, duffel in hand, lips split and eye swelling. "He knows everything," he gasped, collapsing into my arms. "Said he'd disown me officially, cut off the trust fund grandma left, if I don't end it with you." Rage surged, hot and primal, but I tamped it down, leading him to the bathroom to clean the wounds. Ice on his cheek, antiseptic on the cut, my hands gentle as I worked. "He can't touch that money," I said, though doubt flickered. Tyler's pettiness knew no bounds. Jordan's eyes met mine in the mirror, haunted. "It's not the money. It's him dragging this poison back into our lives." I thought we were free. I cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears. "We are. As long as we fight." That night, doors be damned, we retreated to my room, bodies seeking solace in familiarity. Lovemaking turned therapeutic, slow, affirming, each touch a rebuttal to the violence outside. "I choose you," he breathed against my skin, and I echoed it, sealing the vow with kisses that tasted of blood and salt. But dawn brought reckoning. Sarah arrived at first light, face ashen, phone clutched like a talisman. "Tyler's filing for custody review," she announced, voice hollow. "Claims Jordan's unstable, influenced by you. Emergency hearing next week." The room spun, the life we'd glimpsed slipping away. Jordan went rigid beside me, hand finding mine under the covers. "Custody? I'm 22. Mom. An adult. Legally. Yes," she said. "But that trust fund, Tyler's name's on it as trustee until you're 25. He can freeze it, tie you up in court for years." Betrayal layered upon betrayal. Tyler weaponizing fatherhood he'd long abandoned. Sarah torn between protection and propriety. I stood, pulling on a robe, resolve hardening. "We'll fight it. Get lawyers. Expose him." She shook her head, tears spilling. "Don't make this worse. Jordan, come home. Please." He looked at me, eyes pleading for direction, and in that moment, the weight of our choices crashed down. Love, I saw, wasn't just thorns, it was the storm that uprooted everything. We drove to the hearing in silence, the Loop's skyscrapers looming like judges already past sentence. Jordan's knee bounced against mine in the back seat of Sarah's SUV, his free hand twisting the hem of his shirt. I'd scraped together a pro bono attorney from a queer legal aid group in Boys Town, sharp-suited Elena, who promised to dismantle Tyler's case like a house of cards. But doubt festered, courts favored blood ties, optics over truth. The Cook County Courthouse was a labyrinth of marble and misery, echoing with footsteps and muffled sobs. Tyler waited in the hallway, flanked by his lawyer, a slick weasel in pinstripes, and a private investigator whose badge gleamed like accusation. "Brought your guard dog." "Ha!" Tyler sneered at me, but his eyes fixed on Jordan, hungry for capitulation. "Save it for the judge," Elena shot back, steering us inside. The courtroom smelled of old paper and stale coffee, benches hard as pennants. Sarah sat rigid beside Jordan, her hand on his arm a tether or a chain. I couldn't tell. Tyler took the stand first, spinning a tale of paternal concern, Jordan's erratic behavior post-New York, my inappropriate influence as evidenced by those damning photos. "He's vulnerable," Tyler intoned, voice dripping false sincerity. "This relationship is grooming, plain and simple, grooming." The word slithered out, vilifying our tenderness, and I gripped the bench until my knuckles whitened. Jordan's face burned with shame, but Elena cross-examined like a surgeon, slicing through Tyler's facade, highlighting his abandonment, the alimony dodges, the DUI record buried in suburbs. Then Jordan testified, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "My father's a stranger who shows up to control, not care. Adam? He's family, the one who stayed. Who loved me when you wouldn't." The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and eyes like flint, leaned forward. "Mr. Reese, your claims of instability, any evidence beyond photos?" Tyler blustered, but Elena produced counter-evidence. Jordan's therapy notes praising his growth, my clean record, emails from his New York professors attesting to talent derailed by family strife. Sarah's turn shattered me. "I love my son," she said, voice cracking. "And my brother. But this hurt us all. I thought distance would fix it, but seeing Jordan now happy, whole, I realize I was wrong to interfere." Her words hung, a bridge extended. Tyler's lawyer objected, but the judge silenced him, her gaze appraising. Recess came, tension coiling like a spring. In the hall, Jordan pulled me aside, lips brushing my ear. "Whatever happens, I love you." The gavel fell after an eternity. Case dismissed. Trust fund intact. Tyler's petition deemed frivolous and vindictive. He stormed out cursing, but victory tasted bittersweet. Sarah's hug tentative. Her whisper, "We talk later," laced with unresolved grief. Driving home, windows down to the crisp air, Jordan's head on my shoulder, I felt the earth shift. We'd survived the quake, but aftershocks lingered, reminding us fragility beneath the ground. Winter clamped down on Chicago like a vice, snow blanketing the streets in deceptive purity, muffling the chaos we'd unleashed. The hearing's echo faded, but its ripples spread. Tyler's retreat into sullen silence. Sarah's weekly check-ins, evolving from interrogations to awkward coffees at Intelligentsia, where she'd stir almond milk into her latte and probe gently. "You too?" "Serious." Jordan would nod, squeezing my hand under the table, and she'd exhale, a mother reconciling with the son she'd half known. Our life resumed, scarred but resilient. Jordan dove into freelance gigs, his animations finding a niche in local queer film fests, shorts about hidden loves in heartland hideaways, raw with the emotion we'd lived. I mentored him, our drafting table a shared altar where ideas flowed like wine, late nights dissolving into laughter and limbs entwined. Love deepened in the mundane, shoveling sidewalks together, breath fogging in the cold, decorating a Charlie Brown tree with mismatched ornaments from my childhood, slow dancing to Otis Redding in the kitchen, his cheek against mine, whispering futures we dared to dream. Yet, conflict simmered beneath the thaw. Jordan's restlessness surfaced in small ways. Nights he'd pace the living room, phone in hand, scrolling job listings in LA or Austin. "Not leaving you," he'd assure, curling into me, but the seed of wanderlust, nurtured in New York's concrete jungle, sprouted anew. Just expanding. We could go together, right? Road trip the country, like in those Kerouac dreams. I'd smile, kissing his temple, but fear coiled in my gut. At 47, roots ran deep, friends in Boys Town, a routine etched in the city's pulse. Uprooting meant risk, the kind that had felled Mark and me. Maybe I'd hedge, and he'd sense the hesitation, pulling away just a fraction, the space between us growing like frost on windows. Betrayal struck from an unexpected quarter. Not family, but fracture within. It was mid-February, Valentine's Day looming like a taunt, when Jordan's old flame from New York materialized. Evan, the boyfriend who'd shattered him in that Bushwick betrayal. A DM on Instagram, innocuous at first, "Heard you're back in Cheetown. Coffee? For old times." Jordan showed me, laughing it off, ghost from the past. But I saw the flicker in his eyes, curiosity laced with unresolved ache. "Block him," I said lightly, but tension threaded my voice. He didn't. Instead, curiosity won. He met Evan for closure at a hipster spot in Wicker Park, swearing it was platonic. I paced the apartment, paranoia a live wire, imagining scenarios that clawed at my insecurities, Evan's charm, his youth, the history they shared without me. He returned flushed, evasive, smelling faintly of craft beer and regret. "It was nothing," he insisted, pulling me to bed. But the sex felt off, hurried, performative, and in the afterglow, confession spilled. He kissed me. I pulled away, but for a second, I wondered. The word eviscerated, worse than outright infidelity. I sat up, sheets pooling like accusation. "Wondered what? If you made a mistake choosing me?" "No." He reached for me, eyes wide with panic. "Adam, it's you. Always." But Evan, he represented escape, the life I left. And tonight, seeing him, it reminded me how far I've come. With you, tears stung, hot and unwelcome. But you hesitated. After everything, Tyler, Sarah, the hearing, you let him in, even for a heartbeat. Jordan's face crumpled, hands fisting the sheets. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. It's not about wanting him, it's fear. Of settling, of this being all there is." The room chilled, our paradise fracturing under the weight of his doubt. "Is it enough?" I asked, voice breaking. "Me? This life?" He crawled to me, forehead to mine, tears mingling. "More than enough." Panicked. "Forgive me?" I did, because love demands it, but trust cracked like thin ice. Days blurred into cautious navigation, extra touches to reaffirm, honest talks over takeout pho where he'd vow, "No more ghosts," and I'd nod, burying my hurt. Spring teased with crocuses in the planters, but the wound festered, a reminder that intimacy invites invasion. Climax crested in April, under a sky bruised with thunderheads. Sarah invited us to Easter brunch, her olive branch, the family table a minefield of normalcy. Tyler declined, thank God, but aunts and cousins filled the Oak Park dining room, chatter swirling around deviled eggs and honey-glazed ham. Jordan and I sat side by side, knees touching, a subtle claim amid the floral china and crystal. It went smoothly at first, small talk about jobs, the Cubs' dismal season, until Cousin Mike, Tyler's brother, cornered us by the dessert tray. "So," he drawled, pie slice in hand, Sarah filled us in on. "You too." Bold move. "But Jordan, kid, you sure this isn't just rebellion? Against your old man?" Jordan stiffened, fork clattering. "Rebellion? This is love, Mike. Real as the pie you're choking down." Mike chuckled, oblivious to the edge. "Love? Huh? Careful, family's forgiving, but the world's not. Especially for arrangements like yours." The word arrangements landed like spit, reductive and cruel. I rose, chair scraping. "Excuse us." We fled to the backyard, rain pattering on the awning, Jordan's breath ragged. "Why do they always twist it? Make us monsters?" I pulled him close, rain soaking our shirts. "Because they're scared of what we represent. Love without their rules." He kissed me then, fierce and claiming, hands fisting my collar as thunder rolled. It was reckless, the French doors mere feet away, but desperation overrode caution. We broke apart gasping, foreheads touching, the storm mirroring the one inside. Sarah found us minutes later, umbrella in hand, face a mask of conflicted grace. "Come inside before you catch cold." No anger, just weariness. And Jordan, Tyler's dropping the trusty fight. Officially. For the family's sake. Relief washed over him, but it was tempered. "Thanks, Mom. Means a lot." She hesitated, eyes flicking between us. "Just be careful. Happiness like yours? It's rare. Don't let the world steal it." Her words lingered as we drove home, wipers slashing the downpour. That night, we made love with renewed fire, bodies slick with rain and release, vows renewed in whispers. "No more doubts," he murmured, tracing my heart. "We're endgame, but endgames have bosses, and ours waited in the wings. Summer scorched in, humidity thick as unresolved tension." Jordan's animations won a local award, a short film screening at the Gene Siskel Center, packed with supporters from the queer scene. Pride Month amplified it, rainbow flags snapping from every lamppost, the city a riot of sequins and solidarity. We marched in the parade, hands linked high, his laughter bubbling over the base of floats blaring Lady Gaga. For a weekend, we were invincible, kissing amid confetti storms, dancing at after-parties in leather harnesses and glow sticks, the world cheering our corner of it. The high crashed post-screening. Evan resurfaced. Bolder now, a congratulatory email with a link to his own successful project in New York, subtly CCing Jordan's contacts. Subtext screamed, "See what you left behind?" Jordan deleted it, but the barb hooked deep, stirring that old wanderlust. One muggy night, after too many IPAs on the fire escape, it erupted. "What if we left?" he asked, city lights twinkling below like distant promises. LA sun, space, a fresh canvas. Together, my beer turned sour. "And what about here? My life. Our life. It's our life," he countered, voice rising with the cicadas. "But you're holding back, Adam. Clinging to routines like they're anchors. I'm 22. I need to move, grow. And I'm the ball and chain?" The words escaped, bitter as bile. His face fell. "No. You're my heart. But if we stagnate..." The argument spiraled, accusations flying like sparks. My fear of change a cage, his restlessness selfishness. "You kissed him," I hurled, the wound reopening. "And now this? Testing exits." He recoiled, eyes flashing. "That was months ago, and yeah, maybe I am testing, because love shouldn't feel like settling." The door slammed behind him, footsteps echoing down the stairs. I collapsed against the railing, tears hot on my cheeks, the city indifferent to our unraveling. Hours later, he returned, soaked from a walk in the drizzle, apology in his eyes. "I don't want to leave you. Ever." We reconciled in the shower, water cascading like forgiveness, bodies reaffirming what words couldn't. But the crack remained, a hairline fracture threatening to widen. Autumn whispered warnings, leaves turning gold before the fall. Sarah's Thanksgiving invitation arrived with a footnote, "Tyler's coming." Neutral ground. Dread settled like fog. The meal was a tightrope, Tyler's glares over turkey, Jordan's foot against mine under the table, a secret Morse code. Post-dinner, as pies cooled, Tyler pulled Jordan aside in the den, voices low but venomous. I eavesdropped from the hall, heart pounding. "End it," Tyler hissed. "Or I leak those photos to his work. Your mom's church group. Ruin him." Jordan's laugh was hollow. "You destroy your own blood for spite? For decency," Tyler snarled. "This perversion ends now." Fury propelled me forward. "Back off, Tyler. Your threats are as empty as your fatherhood." He whirled, face purple. "Stay out of it, fairy." The slur ignited. I lunged, fists clenched, but Jordan wedged between us, shoving Tyler back. "Enough. You're done here," Sarah burst in, horrified, ushering Tyler out amid shouts. The holiday dissolved into recriminations, but in the chaos, Jordan and I stood united, hands clasped, a front against the storm. Later, in the car, he turned to me, eyes fierce. "I choose us. No matter what." Love, battered but unbroken, surged anew. But as snow flurried once more, I wondered if choices could outrun fate. Winter's grip loosened into a hesitant spring, the city shedding its icy armor with tentative buds and longer days. Our love, tempered in fire, emerged stronger, scarred, yes, but with a resilience born of battles shared. Jordan's animations gained traction, a gallery show in Pilsen landing him a mentorship with a Chicago indie studio, rooting him deeper into the soil we'd tilled together. I finished my novel, a quiet triumph self-published on a whim, its pages laced with our story, veiled, of course, but pulsing with the truth of us. Sarah read it first, returning it with a note, "Proud of you both." Messy, but real. Tyler faded to a ghost, his threats hollow echoes, last sighted at a country club bar, nursing grudges alone. Yet, peace invited reflection, the kind that unearths buried fears. One evening in May, as we picnicked in Millennium Park, bean sculpture gleaming under sunset, tourists milling like fireflies, Jordan broached the unbroachable. "Marry me," he said, casual as offering a sandwich, but his eyes held galaxies. I choked on craft beer, heart stuttering. "Jordan, we can't. Legally, morally, legally," he scoffed, pulling a simple band from his pocket, silver, etched with intertwined initials. "Love doesn't need licenses. Morally, we've redefined that, haven't we?" The ring caught the light, promise unadorned. Tears blurred my vision. At 48, I'd long forsaken such dreams, content with our patchwork forever. But here he was, 23 and fierce, offering eternity on bended knee amid bean-shaped mirrors reflecting our tangled path. "Yes," I whispered, slipping it on, the metal cool against fevered skin. We kissed to the applause of strangers, who assumed us brothers or friends, ignorance a gift in disguise. The wedding was ours alone, a rooftop ceremony at dusk, Sarah officiating with borrowed vows from a Unitarian site, wind tousling Jordan's curls as he pledged, "In storms and sun, I choose you." We exchanged rings under string lights, the city our witness, then tumbled into bed, celebrating with the slow burn of bodies well known, each sigh a sacrament. Life unfolded in humanistic hues, imperfect, profound. Jordan's career bloomed. We collaborated on a graphic novel, his visuals breathing life into my words, touring Midwest cons where fans whispered recognition of their own hidden loves. Sarah found tentative peace, dating a kind-hearted librarian who baked scones and asked about the boys without flinching. Even Tyler sent a begrudging card on Jordan's birthday. "Heard you're doing well. Take care." Not forgiveness, but truce, a crack in his armor, perhaps widened by time's inexorable grind. Conflicts arose. As they do, Jordan's wanderlust flaring during a film fest in Austin, my insecurities whispering doubts over a delayed flight home. But we learned the dance. Arguments aired like laundry, apologies sweetened with takeout and talks till dawn. Betrayal's shadow lingered in anniversaries of Evan's kiss, Tyler's slap, but we faced them head-on. Therapy sessions in a Boys Town office unpacking the baggage until it lightened. One summer eve. Years later, Jordan 27, me 52, lines etching our faces like stories. We returned to that first night's bedroom, now ours fully, walls repainted sage, bed frame sturdy oak. He walked in as if sleeping, recreating the intrusion with a grin, phone flashlight playful. "Saw everything," he teased, tumbling atop me. "And it's exactly what I imagined." Laughter bubbled, dissolving into love-making tender as memory. Afterward, tangled in sheets, his head on my chest, heartbeat syncing with mine, he murmured, "No regrets." "None," I replied, fingers tracing his wedding band. "You revealed me, secrets and all. Made me whole." Outside, Chicago thrummed, trains rumbling, lake winds sighing, a symphony to our quiet triumph. Love, We'd learned isn't absence of storm but sailing through, humanistic in its mess. Forgiveness earned, vulnerabilities cherished, connections forged against odds. In the end, it wasn't happily ever after, nor tragedy's curtain call, but a life richly lived, two men weaving fate's frayed threads into a tapestry of defiant joy. And in that, we found grace. Epilogue whispers, decades on, gray-haired and granduncles to Sarah's kids. We'd recount our tale to wide-eyed nieces, sanitized, of course, but laced with truth. Love walks in unexpected doors. Answer boldly, for in the heart of America, amid concrete and cornfields, we'd carved our legend, not perfect, but profoundly ours.